if you are a woman who can't afford counseling, you can spend $15 and buy my book and walk through a lot of those pieces and
Nice.
just kind of look at those things for yourself and see. There's some tests in my book that help you see whether or not you are maybe have certain issues. But I always encourage people that if you are looking at this and you see yourself in this, go deeper with someone, because I can't say that enough to people, how much of a difference it makes in your life for you to just go talk to an objective opinion who can really look at you and call you out and give you some assignments and get you moving forward, because we can only do so much alone.
Welcome to Female Voices, Life and Loss, a podcast dedicated to women from all walks of life. Whether you're navigating through loss, seeking growth, or simply looking for a place to feel understood, you've come to the right space. Each week, we provide compassionate guidance, share diverse stories, and offer practical advice to help you heal, grow, and thrive. No matter where you are on your journey, we're here to walk with you. Let's grow together.
Hello, Laura.
Hello.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm so glad you're here today with me.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, we were just talking just briefly before I hit record that we really have just met each other, but connected right away and was like, we need to record some of this. I need to pick your brain and let the audience hear all of the knowledge that you have and the mission that you have set forth for yourself. I'm excited to hear more about that. So welcome.
I'm excited to share it. So thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So before we get into all of that, I want you to share with the audience who is this beautiful woman that I see named Laura. Who is Laura?
So you want me to tell you who I am?
Yeah.
That is a very complicated thing. Well,
That's why I always do that, because women struggle with a lot of
saying
times
positive things about ourselves.
Exactly,
yes.
Complimenting. So this is for you to kind of really embrace, I think, who you are. So I know people always get stumbled up a little bit with it, but I think it's good for us to.
Yeah, I am happily married. We're coming up on our 40th anniversary. I have 2 sons that are the joy of my life, absolutely joy of my life, and a daughter-in-law who's the same. And I have done a lot of different jobs in my life, but everything has been social work kind of related. I have a degree in social work, and everything I've done, I joke with people and say that I got to do all the fluffy social work. I never was in the trenches kind of social work. Everything I've done has been sort of a community-oriented kind of job. And that's really, really important to me, is that my life is not just about me, but about my community and my circle. So I have done a lot of things, and God kind of set it up for me to put this. He had put this thing on my heart about 20 years ago, and the stars just aligned and I was able to do it. So I launched it with a lot of trepidation, I can tell you that. Going, what am I doing?
Yeah. So you gave me a lot of titles of who you are, but who else are you? I mean, do you like to garden? You you go walking, you must love nature just like me. What else? Tell us more about besides the titles.
Well, if I could be outside, that's really everything for me, unless it's way too hot or way too cold. I have a little square in my backyard that backs to woods, and I love going back there and digging things and moving things around, and I love working in my yard. I love to listen to audiobooks. I can't read as much as I used to be able to read. I'm too distracted. It's about family and friends for me. Everything is family and friends. So I'm not Catholic, but in the fish fry season, we never miss a Friday night going to fish fries with somebody, and tonight is another fish fry. So that's one of the things that we do.
That's interesting because I think that's very common, that people don't miss fish fries, whether you're not Catholic or not. Like I am Catholic, and we're the same ways. Although I think sometimes during Lent, when there's more fish fries, we kind of steer away because it's crowded.
Yes,
Because
but you end up
everyone's
meeting them.
there. Oh yeah.
Well, you end up meeting the most wonderful people. You're standing in line, and then you go, "Good grief!" Or you'll say, "Oh my gosh, I know so and so," and you make these connections
Yeah.
with people. I love that part.
Yeah.
It's the
Yeah.
social part.
Yeah. I could do it. It's my husband that's not the social person. Sometimes it's like, okay, come on, look, we can do it. So he enjoys it. He always runs into someone else that he knows as well. So it's always good. It's just convincing him that it's going to be good.
Yeah.
Oh, but anyway, well, good. I can tell, and I think that's why we connected, the nature and all of those kind of things. So I kind of have a tendency to attract to people that are my people, I'll say.
Yeah.
That my type of person, that nature and all of that kind of stuff. So you had indicated that this was put on your heart a long time ago, and it's really, from what I remember us talking about, this has just begun. So take us back a little bit. So this was put on your heart. How was this put on your heart? And then bring us forward to where we're at now.
So much of what I've done has been with kids and young girls and worked with church, and I would go into the schools and talk to kids about being safe and being able to talk about their emotions, and those kinds of things always came up. And for me personally, it was that I have this awareness now of how my fatherlessness impacts my adulthood.
Okay.
And I got that more in my late 20s, where I started to kind of put the dots together. And that's when God was saying, you need to really put this in a book. You need to tell your story, right? So I put it off. Well, then certain things happened, and I was able to start working on the book. And my husband's been so supportive. I'm so grateful to him. I was able to put it in a book. And then a friend of mine said, you need to make it kind of a workbook sort of thing. So what I ended up doing was making it a chapter with a story about, you're following a woman's story who is very similar to mine, but also brings in some of the other stories that I've encountered working with girls. Put this story on paper and then have a little workbook at the end of each chapter. And that was what was fueling me. Well, then it turned into this kind of what I call a tiny monster, because then I was going, oh my gosh, now we have to do this and we have to do this. We're going to need to, provide funding for counseling. We're going to have small groups and everything. And then fortunately, I started a nonprofit, and my board was very supportive in saying, it's too much. You can't do this many things. So what I really want to concentrate on, and what I'd love to see catch fire, and I mean ablaze across the country, is this concept of don't divorce your kids. If you're a dad and you're separating from your partner, or you're getting a divorce from your wife, the children need to be taken into consideration. You can't just walk off from them. That's so important to me. I have a book that I've written, but that selling the book is not the main goal for me. The main goal is getting this movement out and the awareness out. So it's called Daddy Don't Go, and it's the healing of a fatherless daughter of divorce. And my healing was a result of me deciding that God was my father. And once I realized that, and that didn't stop putting that pressure on my husband and whomever else was in my life, that's when I started to really make some progress, I say, in my life. I didn't react to things the same. I started looking at different things, had some of my own counseling, and really benefited from inner child work. If anybody has issues and they haven't done inner child kind of work, it's tremendous, because we are just grown people. I'm a big package walking around with my little girl inside of me. And once we, address that, then you can make so much progress. You can make big changes.
When I work with clients, and a lot of the training that I've gone through, 0 to 7 is really our imprint years, and the most important. It's where we learn our emotions. It's where we learn really how to react to emotions. All of the things is really the time where we've learned. So yes, I agree. And
It's
and I
so
do a
true.
lot of that inner child work that is definitely much needed with everyone. I've experienced that myself. And so I totally agree with you. I'm glad that you said that because that is very, very
However,
important.
there's a caveat there, which is
Mm-hmm.
look back. By all means, look back. Figure out why you
Mm-hmm.
are who you are, what resulted in who you became, but don't stay stuck there. We
Yeah.
need to decide that I'm going to look at that and try to, be victorious despite those things and not make
Yeah.
myself a victim. That's really, really important to me because I have heard so many stories from so many women who just they like to what I call wallow in it. They'll stay stuck in that
Mm-hmm.
my dad's not there and he was never there for me. Well, okay, right, okay. But now what are you going to do with that to move forward? And that's really another message that I want to put forth.
Yeah, and I'm in total agreement that with what I do and the training and stuff, and to us it's called like secondary gain. And I've worked with people like with grief, and many, many times people are just not ready to work through their grief. And I've heard this multiple times, like grief is all I have of that person now. So I don't want to leave the grief because it's what I have. Or if there's been something in the past that has happened, like father has left and there's been no contact, or there's been an abuse at a young age, they hold that as their identity. And it's like, if I work through this and I get through this, who
Yeah.
am I? Like I'm fearful. I'm fearful of not knowing who I am. So I'm going to hold tight to this. I'm not going to let this go. And that's where the biggest struggle many times with clients is, let's get you to the other side. It's going to be so much better. And it's hard work. There's nothing easy about like really going through a lot of work and discovering who you are. Because like for me, like this is who I've been for almost 65 years. If you're going to change all that, I'm fearful sometimes of that.
Well, and it's also really hard, I think, to say, I'm responsible for my happiness. I am the
Mm-hmm.
one. I can't put that off on somebody else, my husband, my children, who, the people that I work with.
Mm-hmm.
It's me that I'm responsible. I see your choose joy up at the top over your head up
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I say because I feel like it's always a choice with you whether or not you stay stuck and just wallow or you move forward. You say, I'm going to learn from that.
Oh, I love that we're talking about this. This is good stuff. This is really good stuff. But yeah, when I work with groups, a lot of times too, it's like 1% at a time. But it is your responsibility. You are not necessarily the cause, or if something bad happened to you, or that was not maybe your fault or you caused, but you are in control now of where you go from here forward. And
Yeah,
you're
and
the
there are still
only
so
one.
we're
Yeah.
always going to have variables. Nobody
Yes.
guaranteed you were going to be comfortable and, everything was going to go really well for you, but there's always going to be all these variables that you can't control. So, are you going to give that power? Because
Uh-huh.
I don't want to. If I did that, then I would be miserable all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And we want happiness all the time.
Yes. Yes.
So share with me a little bit what you've discovered and what you've put in the book. You said it's it sounds like a combination of multiple stories. So share with us, when couples get divorced, speak to what you have found with the fathers, because the title is Daddy Don't Go. So I'm assuming that many, many times that's what happens, that the dad is
Yep.
not anywhere around. So speak
Hmm.
to that a little bit. What is the percentage of that? Is that pretty common? Is that very high that the dads, once there's a divorce, they're not in the picture? Was that years ago? Is that still today? Speak to that a little bit.
Well, I can't, since I have a nonprofit, I can't lobby on
Ooh,
behalf of anything, but I can encourage other people, which is what I want to do, to just say, we need to look at the legislation that made it easy for men to not be involved in their children's lives. And there's a
okay.
lot of our policies, that really almost encourage men not to be there.
Oh,
It's just one of the things our policies have set up. So I
okay.
won't get too deep into that, but what I will say in terms of percentages of men who don't stay, I
Hmm.
can't speak to that, but what I can speak to is what happens when they don't. And
Yeah.
I feel like our culture really is, you can look at our culture and see the impacts of fatherlessness on our culture. It's huge. That Let's talk about gang membership for one thing.
Okay.
A boy who goes into a gang most of the time is doing that because he's looking for some sort of leadership. He has
Okay.
nobody telling him what to do or where to go, and he gets involved in this gang because it's a family and it's some kind of leadership. That's a huge issue in our culture. Dropping out of school, kids are 2 times more likely to drop out of school if their dad's not part of their life, which is a huge problem.
Okay. Okay.
You know, their mental health is a huge instability, because as much as we would like to, there's a lot of people who talk about toxic masculinity, which is, you can argue that all day long, but there's a reason why there's a dad and a mom. And in my house, when my kids were coming up, I have 2 boys. There were times when I sort of disagreed, not completely, but with the methods that my husband had, because he was very strong and very black and white about a lot of things. But I think
Sure.
that there's a reason why we need that, because as women, we want to be negotiators and soft, and we want to do all those things. We need the man to say, wait a second, this is not negotiable. We're going to have to do this. There's a reason for that. And I think our culture reflects that right now, that we have all these kids who don't know where they belong and who they are and all of this stuff, when, you are a McCoy. You're a McCoy. This is what we do in the McCoy house. That's who we are. And that's kind of, some people could object to that opinion, but that's the way I feel.
Go back to that a little bit because I want us to finish this kind of discussion a little bit more. So, what I heard you say is a percentage. We don't know the exact percentage, but when boys, or it could be girls, go into gangs, that percentage is high that maybe the father figure is not there. When they drop out of school, the percentage is high that the fathers are not present there.
Hmm.
Criminal behavior, things like with their mental health. What else that you're finding when the father figure is not there?
Poverty. Poverty
Poverty.
is
Okay.
huge, because typically you have a woman who is trying to raise her
Sure. Makes
children.
sense.
Single parent family households, the woman is usually the one who is raising the children, and it may be some extended family like grandparents or aunts or things like that. But there again, I'm not saying that women can't raise great kids. I'm
Sure.
just saying that having that male presence missing is a huge problem.
Okay.
Um, um, Sexual promiscuity, there's, abortion rates, all of these things can be linked to there not being a father in the house.
Okay.
Tremendous problems.
Okay.
Self-esteem, drug use. You could
Okay.
just go down this whole list. Everything negative that you think kids could get into can be connected to having no father in the home.
Okay. So it kind of escalates that, I would think, increases those the percentages
But you
without.
have another thing. I met with a woman yesterday who was telling me her story, and she was telling me that her parents were both very, very abusive. And she said,
Mm,
you talk about wanting to have the dad in the home, but my dad was an alcoholic. He was abusive to me. I don't, and so I'm not saying that no matter who he is, he should be part of their lives. I'm
sure.
just saying, as a rule, fatherlessness is a problem for our kids from the time they're little bitty all the way up through their
Okay.
being adults.
Okay.
I had some really negative behaviors when I was younger, and I didn't make the connection until I got into my early 20s, that where is this all coming from? Because I knew that self-destruction wasn't the way I wanted to go. I had a different path for myself, but I
Mhm.
couldn't get out of that for some reason. And then I discovered that's probably what it was. The fact that, you get a message when a parent steps out that I'm
Oh,
not
yeah.
worthy.
And I think that can go both ways because sometimes the woman, the mother, is the one that steps away. So I think that could
Yes.
go either way. It's so important to have both parents. I hope this doesn't throw you, but I'm going to have you speak to this a little bit. My daughter is a lesbian, so it's two females. So, and many times, not always, but there is one that takes on more of that masculine role, I'll just say. And I think that's in all relationships. One disciplines more than the other, one's stronger, just kind of that. So would you speak to that if you have any thoughts? And I just feel like this and with my daughter, my granddaughter has uncles in her life. And I think so that masculine piece also comes in with a broader family unit if sometimes they're not right in the household. Would you agree with that? Or do you feel like, because
Well,
I
just
think
the
it just
fact
has
that
to be the role that they need to have contact with that. Would you
Right.
agree?
So just the fact that you said that one ends up being kind of stronger and more masculine than the other
Mm-hmm.
in a two mom kind of situation, that it says that that needs to happen. I would never ever say that that was a horrible situation or that
Mm-hmm.
I would reject those people summarily because, so many people now make those choices and they raise wonderful children. Just the fact that you can see that one is sort of stronger than the other speaks to the fact that there needs to be a stronger voice there.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I think back about myself with my boys when they were little, they go, no, we don't want to go to bed now. And I'd say, okay, 5 more minutes. No, daddy says, it's time for bed. It's 8 o'clock. It's time for bed. There was no negotiating. And those kinds of things, I think, oh, what difference does it make? But it does because
Mm-hmm.
they need to have a routine. They need to have a predictability. There are things there that need to happen. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's okay to have authority. We've gotten so far away from that where the kids
Mm-hmm.
are, my stepmother lovingly calls it child worship because she says that we've gotten to this place where the kids are all in charge and we can't do that.
Yeah.
The kids need direction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, and they're finding that more and more that they need direction and not, I'm going to say not physical discipline, but they
Mhm.
need discipline and structure. Kids
And routine. Yes.
thrive more with that. So I think there's lots of studies on that, and it would be great for parents to hear
Yeah,
this.
I mean, you can go all over the map with this. When you look at parenting over time, you see it going up and down in terms of authoritarian parenting and then very passive parenting. And it just does that, just like politics, up and down and up and down, sometimes because people decide they don't like that and they don't want to raise their kids that way. But I just think overall, what you see is when we started taking fathers out of the picture, and when I'm sorry to say this, but like in the 60s, when women started going to work and we thought that we could do all of this stuff, we can only do so many things well. I can't raise my kids, go to work. Just some women can, but I think they have help. I can't do that by myself.
Yeah.
And so when we started looking culturally at what's happened, it all comes back to fatherlessness. I also believe godlessness, but that's not a popular opinion with some people. I think it's godlessness and then fatherlessness, but that's just my opinion.
I love that you've written a book about this. I love that you've formed a nonprofit to help support, I'm assuming, in this, and just bring awareness. I don't think a lot of times people are aware of this and that you're bringing awareness to it. Like I could
Mhm.
say, yeah, before we talked or just with what we thought we would talk about, that um, the problem, the statistics for homes that didn't have a father figure within the home or surrounding that family unit, that that would be what you said, the gangs, the higher drug use, the poverty, all of those things, you know, makes sense to me, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think to have organizations, nonprofits and otherwise, to really support women, or if it's men, it may be the wife that is no longer there, the mother, I should say, that's no longer there. Whatever that looks like, there needs to be a lot of community support and nonprofits. So tell me what you talked about this big vision. So tell me where you're at now, and then let's move to what that bigger vision is. You've written the book, the nonprofit has been formed. Tell me what's going on with the nonprofit. What's
Right. So
happening now?
my goal is to get in front of as many people as I can just to bring awareness to this and just to talk about the statistics, talk about the impact on our culture, and have us start really thinking about what that looks like. I think there's an assumption too now, because kids turn into adults so fast, even when they're little bitty. We don't let them be little for very long, and we assume that they can handle it. They're going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay because we're getting along and we have this divorce and everything. Don't assume that, because I had the blessing of having a wonderful mother. My mother to this day and my stepmother, wonderful, wonderful people. My stepmother is still one of my very best friends. She really is. We're very close. That's not always the case. You have parents who put the kids in the middle and they do all this stuff where they are trying to get the kids to tell them what's happening over at that house and doing all those things. And you can't put those littles in those kinds of roles and expect them to come out of it okay. They have to have, I'd say, if you're getting a divorce, the first thing you need to do is get a counselor for that kid, so that they can start working through in an objective kind of environment and talk about what's going on with me, and just know that they have that voice. Because for me personally, I didn't want to cause any problems. So I had a lot of nefarious stuff going on in the background, but my parents had no idea, because when I was around them, I was trying to put on this, she's a good student, she's well behaved, she's all of those things. And the reality was very different. So don't assume the kids are okay. Make sure they're taken care of.
So what else are you doing as far as a nonprofit besides, is that what you're doing right now with the focus? Because it's very new, is the awareness.
Right.
That's
So
where you're at now.
what I'm doing, I just met with a psychology department at UMSL, and that's one of the things I'd like to do, is start to get in front of students who are coming out of college, so that social workers, psychologists, everybody, I think we all can agree that it's a problem, but I don't think that a 20-something-year-old person really gets the severity of it. So I'd like to get in front of those people, different counselors. We don't, as a nonprofit, we don't provide anything specifically, but I have a list of counselors that I refer to. So when I'm talking to people, I'll say, regionally, who do you want to go see? So I've met so many, and you're one of them that I would definitely recommend.
Yeah. Okay. So talk a little bit too now of the bigger vision, because you talked about having those counselors and stuff and all of these support for the kids, and I would hope for the mothers and fathers, so that they maybe in future don't need so much support. But where does that all? Is there a 5-year plan, or what is kind of the plan? Of course, it all takes some money, so there's probably a fundraising piece to it. But talk more about that.
Oh, the idea of
What's the
fundraising.
vision? I know you have a bigger vision. What is that vision?
I do. So when I did start off, I have a very generous donor that has set me up for a little while to pay my expenses while I'm kind of getting everything started. And I'm so grateful for that. And eventually I would like to be able to have, I meet a woman who says, oh my gosh, I can't afford counseling and I know I need it. And I can say, here's some money so that you can do a few sessions on us. That's what I would really love to see happen. But there's a lot more involved in that than you realize, even just the working parts of collecting money and distributing money and all of that. And I'm not prepared for that just yet. So
you got to have good board members that know how to do that.
Yes. Well, and hire people who know what they're doing too. Yeah,
Yeah. So that's the bigger vision, is to
it
find
is.
those, be able to financially be able to help those that need counseling financially.
Nationwide. I want that to be
Wow.
nationwide. I really,
Wow.
really do. I want it to be a place where people can go, you need to call Daddy Don't Go because they might be able to help you. But, even there's an application process with that.
Mm-hmm.
You have to, do you qualify and all of that? And my brain is not doing that yet.
Okay. So you're financially, it sounds like you have a donor that will support with that. But what does it look like to get to that bigger vision? Obviously, are fundraisers coming in the next year or so? Is searching for bigger donors out there? Who knows? Maybe there's one listening. What's the next phases for you? What are you looking
Well, part of the proceeds from the book,
for?
I don't
Okay.
need to sell books, but if someone buys a book, and really, if you are a woman who can't afford counseling, you can spend $15 and buy my book and walk through a lot of those pieces and
Nice.
just kind of look at those things for yourself and see. There's some tests in my book that help you see whether or not you are maybe have certain issues. But I always encourage people that if you are looking at this and you see yourself in this, go deeper with someone, because I can't say that enough to people how much of a difference it makes in your life for you to just go talk to an objective opinion who can really look at you and call you out and give you some assignments and get you moving forward, because we can only do so much alone.
Mm-hmm. Right. And we've been doing the same thing over and over. And so those people like you're talking about, counselors, myself, we really can um, help them, guide them in that realization. They know there are things, but it's really guiding them to seek it sometimes, and just the awareness to come front and center for
And
them.
I love what you said too before about how difficult it is to peel that back and start over with something and look at I've gotten into this pattern now. I have to figure out something that's going to replace that. It is
Yeah.
hard. It's
Yeah.
very hard. But the truth of the matter is, if you don't have people in your life who speak truth to you, if there's
Yeah.
nobody who pushes against anything you ever say, you need to reassess who you're hanging out with. Because I
Yeah.
feel like
Yeah.
there need to be those people.
Yeah, and the right people that you have built a relationship or have started to build a relationship, that you know that it's out of love, the things that they are saying. Um,
Yes.
it's different to have someone that could be a friend and they just say stuff. I mean, they love you, of course, they're friends, but making sure that it's the right person that really has your best interest and they really are saying these things out of love and to support and help
Yeah,
you
and I believe
through
there's
them.
a lot of information out there, but there's very little wisdom.
Yeah.
You can go online and get all kinds of information, but whether or not it's wise, that remains to be seen. So,
Yeah, for sure. So I know, gosh, we've already been talking quite a long time, but I want to make sure that I give you an opportunity. If I did not ask a question or guide you to something that you feel like is super, super important. I mean, we talked about the book, the nonprofit, kind of the vision. We talked about some things that do happen when the father is not there. What else? Was there anything else that you kind of wanted to make sure today that you shared with the audience that I've not guided the question to that?
not really. I mean, I honestly, my main goal right now is to get this movement out. That's my main goal. I want people to, every time a man walks into a divorce attorney's office, I want that divorce attorney to say, don't divorce your kids. Make sure you stay involved with your kids. If
Mm,
you have a casual conversation with somebody who says, I'm getting a divorce, man or woman, don't divorce your kids. Make sure you take care of those kids, because my gosh, that's who's going to be taking care of us. And if we don't take care of their mental health and their physical health, then that's going to impact us as a culture. And it already has in a
yeah,
big, big way,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah. Anybody that's listening to that, I'm sure, feels that, sees how that has affected our culture. So with you saying that, so connections to attorneys, I guess, would be
Yes.
worldwide. Is that what you said? Worldwide, not
Well,
country.
I'd say nationwide.
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 Okay,
Let's start
nationwide.
nationwide. Yeah.
Okay. I'm like, whoa. Even that is big. That is
Yeah.
a big that is a big vision. So who else do you want to be connected to?
Any
Attorneys?
podcasts I can be on,
Okay.
attorneys, counselors,
Okay.
educators,
Okay.
adult educators, um, just whoever anybody thinks that I could connect to get
Yeah.
the voice out
Yeah.
there.
I
And I also, lots of people want to tell me their stories now. And
mm,
there's a point in time when I can't carry that anymore.
sure.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just I'm not a certified counselor, I'm a social worker, but I take those stories and I think, "Oh, I wish that was part of my book. I wish that was part of." I just encourage people more than anything to find a counselor, find someone. We live in a culture who's very open to that now. Mental
Yeah.
health is a big
Yeah.
deal, and so find a way to go online, talk to somebody, do something if you know you have an issue, because I have had my tag on and been in the grocery and somebody just starts telling me, they'll say, "What is that?" And I tell them, and then we're walking out to the car together with that story. And
Mhm.
while I think it's important that they get that out, they need to have a professional to talk to, and that's so
Yeah.
important.
Mm. Well, it goes back to that the counselor specialist like myself, that it is so important. There's so much feeling in sharing our stories. So it's
Hmm.
nice that you're being part of their healing process, um, while you allow them to share things with you. But I agree, there needs to be more than just the grocery store line that we're sharing a
Hmm.
story, that they really do need to find some more support. That's probably a very small piece and a temporary almost healing, a little bit of a healing. But there probably needs to be more with that, like you're indicating and saying. I just wanted to say that I love the fact that you said every attorney would be able to say and would say, don't divorce your kids. Make sure. I think that like hit me. Like that would be amazing to make sure that every attorney nationwide would say that. And I'm going to say to both mother and father. We know it's more on the father side, probably statistically. Um, but that would be amazing. Just that small little piece to be said when they're going through divorces, would
Well, and if
be
you go to my
huge.
website, I have a little list of things that say how to stay connected to your
Good.
kids, little tips and tricks and things
Nice.
that you can do to stay connected. It doesn't take a whole lot. Everybody thinks we have to. When it's my turn for visitation, I need to take them to Disney and we need to be doing all these things. They just want your presence and your attention,
Oh,
honestly.
yeah.
That was my story, was that I lived with my dad every summer growing up, but he was no more present for me than this desk that I'm sitting in front of. He was very disconnected. And if it hadn't been for my stepmother, I wouldn't want to go at all. So because you have visitation and you're in the room doesn't mean that you are connecting with your
Mm,
kids or that they even feel like they're valuable when they're with you. So, really
love that.
important.
Love that. Well, and with you saying that, I love that you're giving suggestions and tips for them on the website. And there's probably some of that, I guess. Is there some of that also in the book?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So share with the audience all of those things. Repeat the name of the book, your website, how they connect with you, all of those things, so that if they're like, oh, yes, I want all those tips, I want to read that book, I want them to know where they go. And of course, all of that we'll put in the show notes. If you miss it, you could rewind and listen again to try to catch it, or they will be in the show notes. So share with us what
Okay,
all those
so
things are.
you could go to Amazon and get Daddy Don't Go. That's my book. That's on Amazon.
Awesome.
But also, if you want to reach out to me, I have a handout that I give all of my counselors and my um, attorneys, and it starts by talking about the impact of fatherlessness on our culture. There's a paragraph with lots and lots of things that are impacted. And then at the bottom, it says, keep your daddy connection strong. I will print and give you as many of these as you need. If you want them, let me know. I will print them and provide them for you as many as you need. I will personally deliver them if you're close enough to me, or I will mail them to you. But it's a little handout that talks about things like speak kindly to your children about their mother. That is a gift both of my parents gave me, thankfully, was neither one of them ever spoke badly about each other until we got to be adults. And then they sort of played catch up after that point in time. But think about how your kids are going to describe being with you 20 years from now. 20 years from now, when they are grown people, that little 5-year-old is going to go, yeah, I remember going to my dad's house and we'd read stories together. He would sit and talk to me and ask me how my day was, and those things that are relational, because they're not going to remember what you bought for them. I promise you they're not. There may be one big thing that they remember, but for the most part, they don't. Look at your relationship with your own father, because it's going to impact how you parent your kids. If you don't look at how that relationship goes, the woman that I met yesterday was talking about all of these issues she had with her abusive parent and how she ended up in 3 failed marriages after that were a mirror of her dad. And
Yep.
if I don't get that, you're just going to repeat that. Actually get to know your children. What are they interested in? What are they afraid of? Who are their best friends? What is their favorite color? All of those things seem like they're small things, but they're huge to little kids. They're huge. Well, even to teenagers, they're huge. Just to say, I'm known, I'm seen, I'm loved. Those are huge things. Let them know you, so that if I'm with my child and he has no idea about a story, I love it. I had a grandfather who was such a blessing to me, and sometimes he would tell me these stories that I go, oh my gosh, here we go again. But I knew my grandfather through those stories. And
Mm-hmm.
so if your child's going through something, you could say, yes, I remember going
Mm-hmm.
through that, and this is what I did, or these are the steps that I took.
Mm-hmm.
And again, they want your time and attention more than anything you could ever buy or do. They just want your focused presence. We
Mm-hmm.
are a phone focused world. And I
Mm-hmm.
see it every day. I'm out and about, and these kids, the parents think they're misbehaving, but what they're doing is going, see me. You are on that screen, and all I want you to do is see me. So they act out. My
Yeah.
wise mother said once, she said, he wants your attention, and he's going to get it either positively or negatively, and it's up to you to decide how that happens. So put your phone down, be present with them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think people think that that's probably more difficult than it is. Just set a time. It doesn't have to be 4 hours of being present, just
Right.
a short period of time, even if it just starts with 15 minutes. That's huge
Yes.
for kids, or 30 minutes.
Yes.
Whatever that is, but being totally present for them.
I love the statement that I really want to be with you right now, but I can't. So give me half an hour. And then when the clock hands go here, I will sit down
Yeah.
with you and we'll play a game, right? Because
Yeah.
they need to learn how to wait too and understand that
Sure.
you have needs, but you
Sure.
can't just put them off all the time. Yeah.
Right. Right. When you said about asking, like, how was your day and those kind of things, I remembered I shared with you before we started recording, I have my granddaughter for a couple of days. And so I've learned with her, like, I cannot say, well, how was your day? What did you learn? Like, when I pick her
Fine.
up, because, yeah, it's fine. So, like, yesterday when I picked her up, I said to her, so what made you laugh today at school?
Oh, I love that.
So
Yes.
I'm very specific, like, it's not fine or good or whatever, that I ask her questions that she's got to really think about.
Mhm.
Sometimes I may ask her, like, was there anything that made you sad today?
Mhm.
And get them to really think about that. I think it's easier to get them to share things instead of always, how was your day? What did you learn? Like, all those, because that is not present. That is not being present. That is just
It isn't,
rattling
but
off
it
the same
feels,
things all over day after day after day. That's not
yes,
being present.
but it feels as a parent like I'm checking that thing off,
Yeah,
which is a mistake. How was your day? Fine. I've checked that off. We can
yeah,
move on to the next
yeah,
thing, when that
yeah,
tells the kids you really don't care about me
yeah.
specifically. The Dollar Tree actually right now has these conversation cards. They're so cool, and a
Oh,
lot of different companies make them. And I love the idea of get in the car, you pick a card out, and it's a question, and it says something
mm,
like, you know, who do you most admire, or something like that. It depends on their age group how they could answer those questions, but just something that you engage with
yeah,
them that goes a little deeper.
yeah. Oh, I like that. I like that a lot.
Hmm.
Those are all good suggestions. So, do you have a website? You talked
I
about the
do.
book. So, share with us the website, social media. Is it all the same, or share with us what those are? How they get a hold of you?
So the Facebook page is Daddy Don't Go, Fatherless Daughters of Divorce. And it's
Okay.
one big long word with no apostrophes or anything.
Okay.
And then the website is www.daddydon'tgo.net.
Okay.
It's not a .org or a .com, it's .net.
Okay.
So, and
Perfect.
on that, there's just, the awareness things, but it's also, there are links to how to find a good counselor and different things like that on the website. So,
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for
and
sending
ways to
that.
donate if you care to donate.
You never know. You never
Yeah.
know who's listening and where those donors come from. And I'm assuming like all nonprofits, all donations are used wisely and
Oh,
for a good
yes.
thing.
And
So it
again,
doesn't
I
have to
have a,
be a big donor. Just
no,
supporting in any way is it's huge.
my 3-member board holds me very accountable to my expenditures. I go
Awesome.
back to, this is not something I'm doing to make money. This is something I'm so passionate about that I want to move forward
Yeah.
and get the word out.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, that's obvious that you're very, very passionate about it. And it's not to be necessarily a moneymaker, otherwise it wouldn't be a nonprofit. So,
Right. Oh, you can
so
still
yeah,
make money in nonprofits. There's a
you
lot of
can,
people.
you can. There are big ones out there that they
Yes.
definitely is. So yeah, well, I appreciate all of this information. I think this has been a wonderful conversation, and just thank you so much, Laura, for what you're doing to support and to the awareness is huge. I appreciate you coming on and sharing all of this with us, and we'll continue this mission for sure.
I'm grateful that you had me on. And if anybody else wants to talk to me, perhaps we could do that too, in private or on another podcast, however you want to do that. So, thank
All
you for
right.
having me.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Female Voices Life and Loss. We hope today's conversation brought you comfort, insight, and a sense of community. Remember, you're not alone in this journey. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. And if you found this episode helpful, please share it with others who might need it. Stay connected, stay resilient, and until next time, keep growing and healing.